Her scheme to have an affair without consequences had created consequences she never could have imagined when she was orchestrating the whole arrangement. She thought she was so clever, finding a way to pursue her manager while keeping me as her reliable safety net. Instead, she ended up with neither the excitement she was chasing nor the security she had taken for granted. Her perfect plan gave her temporary thrills that cost her everything stable and meaningful in her life. Watching her resign from her job to avoid the daily humiliation of seeing her former affair partner was pathetic and hilarious at the same time. She could not handle being in the same building as someone who knew exactly how desperate she had been for his attention and how little she had meant to him. The workplace that had seemed so exciting when it contained her romantic fantasy became unbearable when she understood how foolish she had looked to everyone who witnessed her infatuation. Her social isolation became more obvious as weeks passed, and she realized how much of her recent social life had revolved around the friends who had encouraged her terrible decisions. These women had abandoned her when their advice led to disaster, and she was left with no support system beyond the husband she had systematically alienated. She went from having an active social calendar full of girls' nights and dating adventures to spending evenings alone wondering how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. The temporary thrills she had chased proved expensive when measured against the permanent damage to relationships that had provided actual stability and happiness. A few months of excitement with someone who never cared about her had cost her years of trust and affection from someone who had genuinely loved her. She learned the hard way that fleeting pleasure rarely justifies destroying something real and lasting that took years to build. Our marriage counseling sessions became exercises in futility as the therapist tried to help us navigate a situation where one person wanted to rebuild trust while the other had already moved on emotionally. My wife would talk about her regrets and her commitment to change while I sat there thinking about Sarah and wondering why I was wasting time trying to repair something that was broken beyond fixing. The therapy was supposed to help us reconnect, but mostly it highlighted how far apart we had grown. The uncertainty about our future created this strange dynamic where we were technically still married but living completely separate lives. She was desperately trying to win back someone who no longer wanted to be one, while I was building a relationship with someone who had never required winning over in the first place. We existed in the same house, but inhabited different emotional worlds that no longer intersected in meaningful ways. My feelings about her situation were complicated because I could see how much she was suffering while also recognizing that her pain was entirely self-inflicted. She had created this disaster through calculated decisions that prioritized short-term excitement over long-term stability. Part of me felt sorry for her because watching someone destroy their own life is inherently tragic. Another part of me felt like she was finally experiencing the natural consequences of treating people like disposable options rather than human beings with feelings. The compassion I felt for her suffering was balanced by my awareness that she had shown no similar consideration for my feelings when she was orchestrating her affair. She had been perfectly willing to risk our marriage for someone who turned out to be completely worthless. Now that our gamble had failed spectacularly, she expected empathy and support from the person she had been prepared to discard if her adventure had worked out differently. Sarah represented everything my wife had thrown away in pursuit of something that existed only in her imagination. While my wife was dealing with workplace embarrassment and social isolation, I was planning vacations with someone who saw our future together as something worth investing in. The woman who thought she was playing chess had actually been playing checkers while everyone else moved on to an entirely different game. Looking back at this entire situation, I could not help but wonder if some choices reveal so much about a person's character that forgiveness becomes impossible, regardless of how much they claim to have learned from their mistakes. The truth is that some people reveal who they really are when they think they can get away with anything. My wife's story proves that trying to have everything often means losing what actually matters. She wanted the security of marriage plus the excitement of an affair and ended up with neither. The best relationships are built on people who genuinely want to be together, not elaborate schemes to avoid honest conversations about what's missing. Her plan worked perfectly except for the part where it destroyed everything she actually needed. Here's the question that keeps me up at night. When someone orchestrates the destruction of their marriage through months of calculated deception, do they deserve forgiveness?